you looking for valuable business advice to reach that 7-figure revenue mark? Do you want actionable tips to properly navigate through every business challenge you encounter along the way? Let Tersh Blissett and Josh Crouch be your guide in getting you to the top here at Service Business Mastery. Tune in as they sit down with world-renowned authors in business, leadership, and personal growth who share valuable insights about management, marketing, pricing, human resources, and so much more. Let their nuggets of wisdom gold guide you in owning a thriving, profitable, and ever-growing business. Here are your hosts, Tersh and Josh.
Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. Hope you're having a wonderful day. You're listening to or watching Service Business Mastery podcast focused on service business owners, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves. If there is a person out there that has an amazing story that pertains to business and starting a business and just the life of overcoming major obstacles, it's today's guest, Weldon. And I appreciate you coming on the show and taking some time out. That I got my timer here and we got it set for 15 minutes. So
okay, yeah, we appreciate you getting you on. We know you are a busy guy. You're going from emceeing the EPIC event to across the street and everything else that you have on your.
It's been nonstop.
And you got the Rehash booth.
Yeah, Rehash leads.
So yeah, it's for those who don't know who you are, can you do a quick background of your history and a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I always like to start that story from now and work my way back. I'm a writer and a speaker. I do a lot of consulting in the residential services business, HVAC world, and plumbing world. I've written 3 books, The Power of Consistency, The Upside of Fear, and a book called Consistency Selling. And I've had a lot of experience in building contracting companies. I've owned probably half a dozen or so over the last 20 years. But the reason that my story is probably more unusual than the average story is that 20 years ago, I was living in a homeless shelter. I was broke. I was homeless. I was 39 years old. And I was in that shelter because I had just walked out of prison after serving 13 years. Went to the penitentiary the first time in 1987. I was a 9th grade high school dropout, just a punk and a thug. Pulled a gun on a guy, got sentenced to penitentiary for 10 years, did about 4.5 years. They paroled me. Back out in the streets. I'm 27 at that age, 9th grade high school dropout. Now I'm a convicted felon. Not a ton of opportunities.
Right.
And hooked up with some guys I met in the joint, ended up going back to the joint. About a year and a half later, went back for a couple of years, got out again. Now I'm, 30 years old, 9th grade high school dropout, 2-time convicted felon. No education, no skills, and got caught up in some shady telemarketing until one day the feds came in and I got sentenced to the federal joint for 7 years at 32 years old.
Dang.
But it was during that last trip to the penitentiary that kind of I had my moment of clarity. My father passed away in June of 1996, and that was like, what the hell am I doing with my life? I was 32 years old. I wasn't getting out of prison that time until I was 39. But I started studying and reading and learning what successful people do. And that was a pretty simple plan. I find out what successful people do. What I learned very quickly is they don't pull guns on people. They don't shoot at people. They don't steal shit.
Right.
And and I just changed my mindset. And, and I walked out of the penitentiary 7 years later, got a job. People ask me, why I chose the HVAC industry. It chose me.
So that's the only people that would hire you?
Yeah. I was knocking on doors for 6 months, on doors for 6 months. And, people were, it was a scarlet letter.
Oh, yeah, it is.
And one day after 6 months, and this will trip you out, 6 months into that process, I got to the shelter in January of 2003. 6 months, I'm knocking on doors. Every single day I'm pounding the pavement because I'm desperate. I had my son was 3 years old. The last time I went back to the joint, I had fathered him when I was out on parole. So when I went back, he was 3. When I got here, he was 10.
Yeah,
and
that's wild. That's a big,
important years. It took a long. He's 29 years old today. He's doing great.
Good.
But my thing was to get a job, get a place to live, and get my kid. That's all I gave. I didn't care anything else. So I knocked on doors for 6 months, and ironically, in July of that year of 2003, I walked in a little heating and air conditioning company that had hired a consultant to hire some salespeople. And that consultant happened to be Drew Cameron. Drew Cameron.
Oh, no kidding.
Drew Cameron was the dude that hired me in my
Get
first
out
job.
Of here.
You never told us that.
That's
awesome.
crazy.
That crazy?
That is cool. That is really cool.
Yeah.
So what made you take the leap from working in the business to becoming the owner? Because there's a lot of our audience who are technicians or general managers, and they're like, man, I think I want to start my own business, but I don't really know what to do.
You got to be a glutton for punishment.
Right.
It's a lot sexier from the outside and the inside.
It is.
Losing sleep at night and wondering about how you're going to make your next quarterly tax payment and payroll taxes and everything else. I just think that when I came out of the joint that last time, I was 39 years old and I was behind the 8 ball, the previous 20 years, I should have been working and building a career, and I wasn't. Most
people build up a history during that time. Like, so you can put on a resume. Yeah. I've worked for 6 air conditioning companies, or maybe that's not a good thing, whatever. And so, definitely behind the 8 ball on that one.
Yeah. I sold for that first company for about a year, and I can do this. And I met a guy that was, really technically an expert, and he had been in the industry for forever. So I started the company and didn't even know what I was doing, man. Yeah. Like, I'm all about taking decisive action.
Let's just do it.
You made up for some lost time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I opened that company. Check this out. I opened that company by taking a full page ad on our local newspaper on a Sunday.
Oh, I remember you saying that.
I ran a full page ad. It cost me $5,000. I put it on a credit card, and it said air conditioning and furnace blowout sale, lowest prices ever. We weren't in, we were the first day of business. Of course, our lowest price. At the bottom of that ad, it said operator standing by 24/7. Well, I was the operator standing by.
They're going to call your cell.
And I booked 16 sales leads that Sunday off that ad.
That's crazy. Wow. So I was going to ask you, I mean, I knew this from listening to the book. I love the audio book, and I re-listened to it on the plane ride here. But so you didn't start out with this bank of money? Because I get asked that all the time. Like, should I have $100,000? Like, should I have 6 months pay? Like, how much money do I have to start a business?
Ideally, we should have.
Right.
But I've also learned through the course of my life that there's never a perfect time.
No.
It's kind of like with kids. You just do it. It's life. It just unfolds. And I wouldn't encourage everybody to do it the way that I did, because
stressful.
I have a tolerance, probably because of the way I live the streets, and you've been through the things I've been through. I have an extremely high tolerance for risk.
Do you find, with you saying that, do you find that when things start running smooth, you get bored and want to do something different? The reason I asked that is I would label myself as a wartime leader. That's why I had 2 air conditioning companies, 2 plumbing companies, 2 electrical companies, because as soon as the business started running smooth, we were doing $4 million at 15% net profit, and I was good with that, but it was automated. Everything was automated, and I was coming to the office bored. And so that's when I was like, glutton for punishment. Let's start another. Hey, you know what? Let's throw a podcast in the middle of this, So I really feel like that's the way I am. I really do have that high pain tolerance, and it leads me to getting really bored whenever things go smooth.
And I think I've been very similar in that way the last 20 years. I will tell you that I'm coming up on 60 years old here. I'm 58 now. And like, it's changing. I'm thinking more time at home, more time with the family. And I'm less just off the crazy hook. Like, let's do something new. Like, let's just kind of enjoy what we got here. And I think that's just about getting older, priorities changing. I had a lot of ground to make up, as you mentioned, and I made it up. And so, now it's, try to stop and smell the roses, but I stay pretty busy. Don't get me wrong. But
yeah. Like, you're still pretty busy guy.
Yeah, I mean, you're real busy, especially this week since we've seen you. You're here or there going. Tell me what you thought about Sully, Captain Sully, just a few minutes ago.
So as I mentioned when I introduced him, for your listeners and viewers, I'm emceeing the EPIC event this year, which is unusual for me because normally I'm keynoting, and I've never just purely emceed an event before. So it's been pretty cool. It's been a neat experience. And I was I'm a news junkie. So when the Sullenberger thing happened, when the Miracle in the Hudson happened, I was like glued to it, and just all the stories, of course, the movie, and I've read his books, and man, that dude is just character and strength and courage.
Yeah,
I could not wait to meet him. And it's funny, we were in the green room early this morning before he spoke, and just talking and taking a couple of pictures and things. And like, everything about that dude was planned. He's like, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. Yeah. And I'm like, man, get up and talk to him. What the hell's the plan?
Just shoot the shit.
But I'm thinking this is why that dude saved 155 people.
Yeah.
Because he is so prepared and so process oriented. He's a very, very charismatic and a very impressive human being.
And I love what you mentioned at the end of his entire presentation was the fact that he gave accolades to all these other people
every time.
Yeah.
And I wondered, I had asked him backstage how close the movie was, and he goes, it was very accurate. And I noticed that in the movie, that he was always giving credit to his first officer and the other crew. And then, of course, he led today with it. Every time I've seen that guy speak, and it's almost, he seemed like a really humble guy. Didn't he? Do you guys? Super humble, probably a little overwhelmed by all the attention that he's received. And he's very, very quick to give credit to the people that were around him.
So tell me this, do you have to be a good reader to be successful?
I think you got to be a good learner. I mean, you got to learn.
Yeah.
And
you have to be a lifelong learner.
And for me, it came through books. In the penitentiary, when I kind of had my moment of clarity, that was the only resource I had access to.
Yeah, because in your book, you mentioned you read everything, and then like you mentioned you read Sully's book, and I mean you're reading all this stuff and
all the time.
Can someone be successful if they're not a reader? Because I asked this because I battle with dyslexia. That was part of the reason why I started this show, and public speaking is also, and that was one of my huge fears. But I have purposely put myself in a situation where I force myself to read, and it's not something that I would say is fun to me, but I do like learning.
Well, and I think that's the key. And we're fortunate, living in the 21st century as we do, that we can listen to books.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have you heard about this lately? Like, people are like reading and listening to books at the same time.
I do it all the time.
A lot of people are doing that.
I have physically purchased your book, and I have your audio book, and I literally was listening to them.
I haven't tried that yet, but man, people swear by it. Like the level of comprehension.
Well, I would think the comprehension, because it's always like
if I read a book, I have to read the same paragraph 3 times on average, or I will not consume the. If I listen to it, I can pretty much take it all in. But if I listen to it and read it at the same time, it's there forever.
Yeah, no, that's awesome stuff. But I agree with you. You got to be a learner, not necessarily a reader, because some people, you mentioned the dyslexia. One of my closest friends, a very successful entrepreneur. He jokes about, he's just a public speaker as well, but he jokes about doing the 4th grade 3 times and seeing things backwards and blah, blah, blah. And so, so I really admire, by the way, how you've dealt with that and overcome that. And isn't that the point of it all? Like, life is about how
overcoming.
Listen, in essence, life is a reflection of how well you can deal with bullshit.
It is, because
it's coming.
It's coming. It is coming. And as a business owner, anybody that's listening to this that's thinking about, hey, I want to be a business owner. It's easy. It's not something that most people see. I have a Corvette, like I have Mustangs, you know what I mean? Like they see it whenever you're good, but they don't see the stressful times and the really gut wrenching, like,
well, they see the good stuff on social media.
Oh, and that's
they see the
we're on purpose.
They don't see all the hard work, the stress, everything else.
Did you see this thing with this young girl Gabby and her boyfriend Brian? Apparently, dude, one of the most interesting things. I mean, it's just a tragic story. This beautiful young girl, and even some sympathy even for him.
Right.
It just destroyed everybody's lives, including his own. But just such a tragic loss with this young girl. But the face they had on social media. And when we learned what was going on with the abuse and the control and different things and the way he was personally with her. But if you look at that social media image,
you would think it's the perfect couple.
And it peeled the curtains back on just the deception. I'm not saying it's intentional.
Right.
I mean, like, I don't put my worst day on Facebook. Right. I put my best days on there.
Absolutely.
But it creates this thing. And I've got a 17-year-old daughter now. And, and I can see it, and it's not always a positive.
Well, Facebook just had that big thing with teenage girls and stuff like that.
Well, our oldest son, he's 13 now, and his living up to the expectations of others on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat, and it's like he still is struggling with that whole concept of
pressure. And it's hard. I mean, think back being 13, 14 years old.
We didn't have
it was so awkward, and it was tough then. It's so awkward. And now when you're comparing everything you do and everything you wear and everything you say to some fantasy that's total,
it's BS. It is 100%. Yeah. And it's they have their best presentation, and like I took 17 pictures, and I'm gonna pick the very best one, and that's the one I'm gonna put up.
I'm gonna put a filter on that picture so I look even better.
Photoshop that bitch. I look really
good. That's exactly.
My wife's the photographer. I'm like, can you get the extra chin out of there?
No, I agree 100%. Cool, man. Well, we appreciate everything that you've done for us here. We're perfect timing. is there anything that we didn't ask? And Rehash, we got a couple minutes.
Yeah,
here.
no, it's a new platform we launched last year. It basically automates the sales follow-up process.
How many times does it do it?
Different campaigns are different. Basically, the coolest part is like, let's say you walk out of a sales call, you don't close it.
Yeah.
You say, Mr. Homeowner, can I send some more information? You drop in one of the Rehash campaigns, series of videos that I've produced and some PDFs. It continues the education process about every 3 days for the first, 2.5 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Right. During that crucial decision-making time. But if there's no action after that first 20 days, it drops them in. We assume they went with somebody else we're not going to buy. Drops them in a nurturing campaign, and they'll get something every 90 days. So at least they're staying in your world, and you were staying in touch with them. We've had a lot of success with it. And contractors are telling me, man, customers call me back, and we say, why did you go with us? And they say, because you stayed in touch with us. And it looks, it's very
automated.
Well, what I like about it, so we used it. I couldn't get my sales guy to use it properly. I would actually use it after his sales calls to get people on it.
Yep.
But it's educational.
Yeah.
You're not just
not
following up to follow up.
Our opt-in rate
hates.
across the entire platform is 53%. That's 53% of homeowners that are getting dropped in campaigns are opting in.
Wow.
Where do you see that kind of opt-in?
That's crazy.
What marketing dollar can you spend that half the people that you put it in front of are going to see it?
Well, it's funny because yesterday I did the breakout with Drew and Russ, and they were talking about teaching people how to buy air conditioning equipment because they buy it 1 or 2 times in their lifetime. They don't know all the stuff that you have out there. So this is helping that educational journey.
Folks can go to rehashleads.com and learn more about it. And I know we're short on time today. You guys are busy. You're going to another event too across the street, aren't you?
Yep.
I'll be speaking at Caesars this afternoon, just after Grant Cardone. I'm not sure. But I'm looking forward to that. But I love what you guys are doing. I love the vibe of your podcast. I'm really enjoying this conversation. I wish we had more time. So if at some point you guys want to do something in a longer form,
absolutely. We would love that. Yep, we can do it virtually, and
that's a great vibe.
Cool, man. Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate everybody that's listening to this live, and there've been a bunch of people commenting over here. But we appreciate everything. If you have any questions about any of this stuff here, time that perfect. Just reach out to any of us, and we'll be more than happy to get you connected with Rehash. But with that being said, I hope you have a wonderful and safe day. Until we talk again next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery. Now that you are equipped with essential business advice from this impactful conversation, you are one step closer to becoming the successful owner of your dreams. If this episode has been helpful to your business journey, don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and share it with other owners as well. Visit servicebusinessmastery.com to learn more.